This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast, joined on my right by, or probably my left by Giles Edwards in Montreal, a hotel room in Montreal.
Yes, hello everyone. You
And
can see the headboard.
There's a headboard, and beneath me, as always, by the impressively bearded and occasionally insightful Pete Turbovich.
Mm-hmm. Much obliged as always, guys.
Yes. Okay, well, we do not have a whole lot of movies to discuss this week, and what we do is kind of marginal and on the outer perimeter of weirdness. And that's because probably it's the middle of the summer blockbuster season. Weird movies aren't making it into the theaters, but also possibly because the weird movie makers out there all know that Fantasia International Film Festival is running right now, and they're going to suck all the air out of the room as everybody will be paying attention to Giles Edwards' daily reports, often daily reports, of every single movie that plays at the festival.
All 125 feature films.
How many do you usually get?
I somewhere around 4 dozen. The festival is 3 days shorter this year, so I guess if I hit 40 features, I'll be happy, and whatever little extras I'll tuck away with the shorts collections and so on. So I'll be shooting for 40.
40. And before we start running down this week's news and releases, of which again there's not very much, what do you have on slate at Fantasia for us in the very near future?
Very near future. Why, this evening I will be watching The A-Frame, which I believe you mentioned. Was that only last week? That must have been last week. Tomorrow, the main item of interest is Joel Prochazka's latest, Volcanizadora, which I will be watching after I sit down with the director. So he and I will have some kind of conversation, which I will pass along the audio for anyway. I might bring my laptop. Maybe I don't. Yeah, we'll see how the sound works there. And then there's Saturday's Animalia Paradoxa and the Mononoke movie, which looked very psychedelic and cool. And after that, things are slightly more vague, but Cryptic coming up on Monday. And yeah. Oh yeah, and Chainsaws Were Singing looked possible as a silly Eastern European horror romp. So
The Chainsaw Massacre musical.
yeah.
But regarding the Petrikis movie, Giles, Joel is the director. I believe that may be a sequel to Buzzard, which I'm not sure you saw.
I have not. I've actually only seen Relaxer and a short film that screened 1 or 2 years ago here, which was most amusing and involved an evil-looking bird thing.
Well, maybe I'll give you some pointers. I'm not 100% sure it's a sequel. It might be a spiritual sequel. It's got Petrikis and Joel Berge, who stars in so many of his movies. All right. Also, before we get into it, Pete, do you have anything coming up that you would like to talk about?
Well, not that specifically. We've been doing. Let's see here. Well, there's the Weird View Crew video series, of course. Have you had a chance to look at the Dick Tracy one yet?
I have not edited it or looked at it in depth.
Okay.
I know it exists.
Yeah, well, that's the next one coming up to go on our site. And then we have the 10 Weird Moments series I'm launching. And these are going to be little short 5-minute clips of a movie that's already on our weirdest list. So we're going to honor some of our weirdest movies and show 10 clips within 5 minutes time that just showcases why we call a movie weird. And this will be for people who are, reading our review on the site and haven't quite made up their mind yet. But trailers don't always accentuate the weirdness as well as they might. So we kind of go through it and pick out the moments that are just the most unique and signature moments, but not necessarily the stuff that's overplayed in trailers and not anything that's going to be a spoiler. I do see where the guys with Hundreds of Beavers, the makers of the movie Hundreds of Beavers, did a Reddit AMA. We can dive into that if we have some time later on.
No, I didn't see that. But we've
Yeah,
talked
it's on
about
the
we talked about
that's on the Reddit R Movies subreddit.
Okay. Well, maybe
Yeah.
perhaps if we have time and you have something to report from that. I know they will have a Blu-ray coming out fairly soon for that.
Yes.
But let's just get right into the little bit of news that we have. Can everybody see the image? Everybody sees it?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, Pete, you want to describe it?
This is an actress with her hands on her knees, bent over, looking down at our camera perspective through a large rectangular hole in the concrete in what appears to be a prison-type setting. And I know that it's a sequel to a movie that had a lot of buzz a couple years ago, and I certainly loved it. Even though it is another class struggle science fiction movie.
Yes. And that movie is Platform 2.
Platformer.
This time it's personal. So let's see. The original came out in 2019 on Netflix, or was made in 2019 on Netflix. I believe they put it up during the pandemic. We watched it when back in the pandemic when we were doing weird viewing parties. And that's how Giles and I saw it together with some other folks who dropped in to see that one. And movie has a very simple premise. It's a social experiment, not really a prison, although it has the structure of a prison whereby people live on these various tiers, and there is in the center a large hole through which drops a platform with food on it, and that is how they get their food each day. However, the platform only stays for 2 minutes, and so people at the top will run up and grab all the lobster and drawn butter and caviar and eat that and throw away the refuse. It'll drop to the next level, and then people will get, the hamburgers and hot dogs. And then by the time it gets to the basement, it's just,
Empty.
bones and spilled soup that you have to slurp up and stuff like that. So, a class structure allegory. We've seen several of those before, things like Snowpiercer, where it's done by train compartments, or High Rise, where people, at the top of the building live very luxurious lives, and people at the bottom live in penury, and so forth. Not sure what they're going to do with number 2. Not sure what they could do, what they could throw into it. It seemed like it was a cool one-off. I don't know that anybody was actually screaming for a sequel. But maybe they'll do something really, really interesting with it. We don't know. Giles, any thoughts?
Yeah, I read the Variety article. Apparently, the first one had 82 million views, which obviously suggests some strong and broad interest. And yeah, the little twist that they're tossing in here looks like, let's see, as a mysterious leader imposes their rule in the platform, a new resident becomes embroiled in the battle against this controversial method to fight the brutal feeding system. But when eating from the wrong plate becomes a death sentence, how far would you be willing to go to save your life? So something's happening, if a little ambiguous. I enjoyed the first one enough to say I'm curious, and we'll definitely check it out at some point.
Sure, I suspect I'll check it out, but that plot summary could have described the first one just as well as the second one.
Well, the first one, it focused on the volunteer guy and his platform mate and kind of their dynamic, as well as the other, the whole social experiment part. So this looks like I guess there's a strong risk they're tilting it more toward a thriller kind of thing as opposed to a meditation, but well,
Yeah,
sequels always happen. So
I'm a bit concerned that it might go the Cube sequel route where they start over explaining everything and getting into stuff,
no.
lore that's really not interesting at all, taking all the mystery out of it.
no, it's definitely a high risk.
Something to be concerned about, but it's only going to be an hour and a half of your time. So if it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. And we're hoping this one will be good. This one's out in theaters. Since Pete described the last one, Giles, you want to describe this still we're looking at?
Oh, yes, happily. All right. So this is an impressive device on display with one hand holding up part of the mechanism, the other proudly pointing at the front where the name of the item is there. It's a nice, looks like a nice smooth metal, painted a wonderful red with a hatch toward the top of it. It's about the size of a bread box. And the hatch opens to show off an inner mechanism that consists, at least as far as we can see, of a broad brush that might be used for sweeping. And there are delightful chrome accents on either end of both the device and the liftable part. And it seems to be resting in front of a counter that is regrettably strewn with crumbs.
And the name of the item, the device, and the name of the film are both on there on the
Yes.
still.
This device is the Crumb Catcher, which
Right.
will, I presume, solve the problem that it's been put before.
Okay, so this is from, well, it's from, I believe, Doppelganger releasing in conjunction with Glass Eye Picks. I mentioned Glass Eye. I'll come back to that, I think. So plot very simply is a newlywed couple accosted by an entrepreneur who's interested in getting him to invest, or the couple to invest in this majestic crumb catcher, which supposedly, well, it doesn't seem like a very practical idea. I guess you buy one and take it to a restaurant to clean up your own crumbs, or maybe the restaurant supplies you one. It's not at all clear how it works, but that's why.
Surely you have crumbs occasionally in your own home that you've wondered how to reckon with, right, Greg?
No, not me. No. Crumbs in bed. That I do have.
Oh, no. You might have a luxury design for them.
So
It kind of reminds me of a steampunk Roomba.
Yeah.
at any rate, the guy's pitch becomes increasingly intrusive as he's bothering these people on a celebration private getaway. There is some marital tension and perhaps some hints of secrets and blackmail, and it's described both as a black comedy and as a horror by the end. Some reviews have used words that caught our attention, like absurd and odd. I've got some others. Let's see. Somebody calls it a weirdly funny nightmare. There's the W word. Some mixes absurd and the mundane, and odd watch, twisted dark comedy, stuff like that. So, as I would say, maybe the outer perimeter of weird movies that we're interested in. I did want to mention Glass Pix was behind it because that's Larry Fessenden's company, and I tend to enjoy things that Larry Fessenden is involved in. And I know I never got to talk to Larry Fessenden, but I know Giles interviewed him, and it seemed like a very fun interview.
Yeah, cool guy, fun guy. And yes, as I also noticed, since I'm sort of from the area, whenever I see remote estate in upstate New York, I think, thank goodness I'm going to see some land and weather that I'm familiar with when I watch a movie. So, but since he's situated, I think about an hour and a half southeast of me, I'm not surprised that he's involved in projects taking place there.
Okay, so that's in theaters. I haven't checked. It might be out on VOD at the same time. If not, it will be at VOD very soon after. Pete, do you have any thoughts on Crumb Catcher? I assume you saw the trailer and read the synopsis.
I kind of glanced at the synopsis. I didn't see the trailer yet. I couldn't find it from the site, but nah, not specifically. Um, well, like I say, steampunk Roomba. Could be maybe if you're catching crumbs with an eye towards frugality of food usage, it may even tie into the platform too.
Oh,
That's a good point. Yeah, they need a crossover.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
you can.
Between Crumb Catcher and Platform 2.
Yeah, you can
Yeah, there you
crush
go.
the crumbs into a bar to eat later, so you're.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't the original platform have a thing where like they can monitor your cell, and if you save food, then it'll radiate you or something, or it'll do something, it'll knock you out. I forget.
I think they had some mechanism to enforce, eating exclusively from the platform, day to day.
Yeah.
It's now been about 5 years since I've seen that. So
Yeah. I don't recall either, but they did have, I mean, it seems like it would just be they had to have some like electroshock thing or collars or something that prevent people from doing things, because it seems like it would be just too easy to cheat.
Yeah.
But let's move on. That's Crumb Catcher in theaters, possibly on VOD. Let me check on that later. And here's one on Criterion. Who wants to describe this wonderful cover?
Well, we've got a man who looks like a some kind of perhaps holy figure or shaman. I know this movie's set in Brazil. I did see the trailer for that. He has a sunburst symbol around his head, kind of a halo-like effect, and he's brandishing a item that looks like a cross on a red background. And this is a film by Glauber Rocha, and it's entering the Criterion Collection. It's called Black God, White Devil.
I'm not. Is that a cross or is that a sword hilt he's holding out?
Oh, it's a
I
sword
think that
hilt.
is a
and
sword
then-
hilt.
Yeah, and behind it is the row of coins, so I can certainly see a cross.
There's a
shape.
row of coins that he's wearing as a headband, which gives the
Is that it?
impression of-
Okay.
So, and then at the top, he's wearing this elaborate elaborate, strange, strangely shaped hat.
Like a
semicircular
crescent.
hat.
Okay.
And yes, it's Black God, White Devil, which is a Brazilian classic, I guess. It's something, it has not been seen very much in the United States. When it came out in 1964, as part of
Whoa.
new Brazilian cinema, what they called Cinema Novo, along with Black Orpheus. It got very good reviews, and then but never really showed up. I think it was on VHS, but never showed up on DVD or Blu-ray after that. It just got kind of forgotten. It's a movie about Brazil class struggles. There is a preacher who is a rabble rouser who wants the poor to kill the rich, and heard of it also described as something of a proto spaghetti western set in Brazil. Um, it's from Criterion. Of course, they're going to have a lot of extras. They have documentaries on the director, Glober Rocha. They have maybe Rocha. They have a documentary on Brazilian New Wave films of the Cinema Nova. They have a sort of historical little mini document about banditry in that time. And this is a movie I've never seen. It always gets good reviews, but very few people have actually seen it, which makes you wonder if there's maybe some rose-colored glasses going on, and whether it's been sort of become a legendary movie over time. Giles, any thoughts about this one?
Yeah, I guess. The trailer definitely a number of things about that piqued my interest, and I like the fact that there's a clash of two types of I'm going to presume Christianity. Certainly, your Christianity on the one part, there's the established pastor fellow who is very concerned about this rabble rouser, and he's actually part of the forces that are trying to work against this what looked like a very messianic individual, and kind of caught in between these machinations of upheaval and plutocracy having their boot on the throats of the little guy, and all that is this very unlucky couple. I believe they're husband and wife, who are on the run and end up in this area where they are sort of pulled into all this. So there was a description I saw, I don't remember if it was on the trailer or somewhere amongst the various blurbs, that described it as being parts Italian neorealism with some attitude of the French New Wave. And there was, I believe the spaghetti western or something like that. And while my views on Italian neorealism are, I'll politely describe them as mixed, this combination of what looks like sort of slowcore and heated religion and violence, I think could add up to something special. But I don't know.
There, on IMDb, they have this keyword feature, which is not usually extremely helpful, because it's mostly people putting in things like bare-breasted man, topless woman, foot, cigarette
Yes,
smoking. It's like for fetishists to search out every movie that has foot shots in it. But they do have some more descriptive things, and this one gets tagged with some things that were interesting and make me think it might be worth looking at. Magical realism, which they might throw in simply because it's from South America, so you got to throw magical realism. Mystical vision, mystical quest, and then there is avant-garde surrealism, and I have heard nihilism is in there. I have heard one person say that in the middle there are perhaps some surrealistic sequences which might be tied to a mystical vision or so forth. Don't really know a lot about that, but as I said, yet another, the third movie that we're looking at this week that is kind of on the outer perimeter of it. Might be weird, probably not weird enough to be a list contender, but in the general region where certain of our audience may really want to see this film, and certain people may really want to see Platform 2. They may really want to see Black God, White Devil. They may really want to check out Crumb Catcher. And yet nothing that just screams weird.
Yeah.
And
I'd wager all three are weird adjacent, but
yeah, weird adjacent. And that's where we end up this week. And that we have weeks like that. It would have been a good week to have a guest. I did not have we might have been able to get a last minute guest, but we didn't know what was going on and didn't know if Pete's smoking would turn them off. And we're back on, Pete.
Yeah, I know, I'm on.
So now we got to give it an R rating because we have some smoking on the.
Oh no,
is that our rating these days?
I vape on the podcast, so
Oh.
let's. What did I? Anybody have a topic before we close out here? You wanted to talk about Hundreds of Beavers, Pete?
Well, yeah, I do see where they did an AMA on Hundreds of Beavers, and let's see here. All the crew appears to have weighed in on this Reddit AMA, which is again on R Movies. If you want to check it out, it's currently pinned to the top of their subreddit, and the whole team's there. There's Raylan Brixton Cole Tews, the lead actor, co-writer, producer, Kurt Ravenwood, producer. Let's see here, and they had a gag man too. As I understand it, there were over 1,500 special effects that were edited on the computer after filming. So a lot of the post edit was contributing to that effect. They said they're also proud to announce that Hundreds of Beavers will be the first film to be screened at the Library of Congress in the same year as its theatrical release. So that's an impressive achievement for any movie. That just broke a record. So, outside of that, it's a Reddit AMA. There's a lot of people who come up with silly little questions and they answer it. It's different things all around the edges.
In those questionnaires' defense, it's a silly little movie, very grandly silly, but definitely ridiculous. Have you seen it yet, Greg?
Only parts. I tried. Before we interviewed the guys, I got a screener that landed about 10 minutes before we went on. So I watched the beginning and kind of zipped through and had seen the trailer. So I still haven't seen it in its entirety. But definitely will see it before the end of the year and the voting comes along.
Well, that does remind me, is there any word on the big book?
Well, okay, that's the next thing I was going to discuss. Still waiting on the cover design, and I am almost finished. Now that the entire thing has been paginated, I am almost finished with I will be finished by the end of this week with the incredibly tedious job of doing the table of contents / index and saying what page every movie appears on. Very, very tedious. So I've been doing that while I'm waiting on the cover design. It is longer than I thought, but it will be done by the end of the year. The closer it gets to Christmas, I figure the better. Closer we delay it till Christmas, the better, right?
That's right. And especially if you can make a really like narrow but tall version for people to put in their stockings, and stockings are very
Okay.
As discussed, it's due to the length, it's being released in two formats, which is unusual. The hardcover is in 2 volumes because of the extra length of the cover, and the soft cover, I got them to put it into 1 volume. So that's that. And more as that comes. Also wanted to say we are not scheduling any guests while Giles is at Fantasia, because we're hoping to jump in with Giles, and that maybe even Giles will be able to rope in some kind of mystery person to help us out. However, after we're out of Fantasia, we do have guests lined up. I don't necessarily want to say who they are. They are, however, 2 directors and 1 writer, and the writer has just published a book on a certified weird, canonically weird movie, which I think a number of people would be interested in talking to him and listening to what he has to say, because this was a fairly popular movie, which I will only hint comes sort of at the end of the alphabetical list.
The alphabetical list.
There you go. And that's that. All right. Anything else?
It's not Zardoz, is it? No.
That would be very much toward the end.
Could be. It could be Zardoz. If it's Zardoz, I'm afraid people may be fighting to co-host.
It's one of my. I like that for being one of the. It's kind of a favorite of mine in the really bad science fiction genre. I'd say that much. But all right, but it's probably not Zardoz anyway. So
not saying. Yes,
it's Greenaway for a Z and 2 knots. You nab the Englishman, I'm sure.
Well, it's a
book about
author. It's not the director.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's that. I guess the other, it could be Zazie dans la Metro.
Metro, yeah.
Or Zero for Conduct, maybe. It's one of those Z movies. And then maybe another guest even after that. And boy, do we need some more female guests. So I might have a female guest lined up, because we just have too much sausage here. It's just insane. Giles, are you going to get some poutine tonight?
I don't think I may not have ordered poutine while I've visited here.
Oh my God.
Well, I spent a lot of growing up, late teens. I had a lot of years going here with my folks, and so I had it then, and so now when I'm here, it's like I kind of just hang out a lot in my hotel room and eat simple sandwiches while writing or waiting for screenings. So it's not as exciting, and possibly not even as exciting as poutine.
You know what you could use, Giles?
What?
A crumb catcher.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And that thing looked like the width of my coffee table. That would be perfect. That prop looked awesome.
All right. Well, I suppose we will start receiving reports from Giles on the movies he's seeing tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow. Maybe not, but by the weekend at the latest, I would guess. Pete will have a video popping up next week as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything, because there's so much content coming that I just think might get lost. So I know Shane Wilson is going to have another one of his reviews. I'll tell you what that is. Shane Wilson will have Pola X, it looks like.
Oh, that poor guy. I saw that movie once,
Oh, you saw Pola X and we're not a
about
fan.
20 years ago.
Okay.
Which movie is that? Polar what? X?
Pola X. I think I shared a trailer in one of our side chats, and you found that less than interesting. It's a very French movie about a writer guy and a controversy. Its main interesting thing is it has the musician Scott Walker in it
Huh.
as himself.
Oh, okay.
It is not Pola X, however, that Shane is going to do. That will be the week after.
Oh,
Instead, what Shane is going to do is The Woman in the Fifth from 2011 with Ethan Hawke and Kristen Scott Thomas, a psychological thriller requested by a reader. How much time do we have left?
looked
About
like
a minute 30.
40.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure the timer was working. So that'll do it. Thank you, Giles, for showing up. Thank you, Pete, for showing up. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we will have a lot more movies to discuss. If nothing else, Giles will probably just reiterate what he's seen. And again, I'm hoping maybe Giles can just rope somebody like a fellow critic in to sit in his hotel
Yeah, I
room.
actually have I have a possible target that I'll be seeing this evening, and I'll
Yeah,
inquire of her.
target somebody, and yeah, and that's that. So thanks, guys. Again, we will see you all next week, and weird out.
Word out. Weird out.
Weird out.